Welcome back to another Valley Sports Plug Arizona Cardinals recap for December 18th, 2022. The Arizona Cardinals were taking on the Denver Broncos in Denver, and the final score was a disappointing 15-24. The Redbirds would take the loss in Denver against the Broncos. Let's take a little high-level overview of these stats today. Colt McCoy would get the starting nod, throwing 13 of 21, 78 yards, and an interception before going out in the third quarter with a concussion. He would not return. Third-string quarterback Trace McSorley would take over, completing 7 passes on 15 attempts for 95 yards and 2 little interceptions himself. No passing touchdowns today for the Cardinals. On the ground, James Conner would have 16 carries for 63 yards and a touchdown himself. His longest rush was 14 yards. Through the air, DeAndre Hopkins would have 7 receptions for 60 yards. Trey McBride, 4 receptions for 55 yards. And James Conner would snag himself 3 receptions for 28 yards. On the Broncos side of the ball, Brett Rippon would complete 21 passes on 26 attempts, 197 yards for 1 touchdown and 1 interception himself. Latavius Murray absolutely scorching the Cardinals defense, 24 carries, 130 yards and a touchdown, averaging 5.4 yards per carry. Jerry Jeudy would haul in 7 receptions for 76 yards, and Brandon Johnson would have 3 receptions for 30 yards. A whole spate of Broncos receivers would get receptions for various amounts of yards. Needless to say, it was enough to get the job done and the victory for the Broncos. I'll do a little quick breakdown of the scoring for this game. In the first quarter, Brandon McManus would take the lead for the Broncos, making a 52-yard field goal to make it 3-0. In the second quarter, Matt Prater would have a pair of field goals, 45 yards and 50 yards respectively, to give the Cardinals a 6-3 lead going into the half. Matt Prater again, coming out of half in the third quarter, would make another field goal to make it 9-3. That was a 55-yarder, really hitting on all marks today for Matt Prater. But then it was all Broncos, 3 touchdowns in a row from Marlon Mack, Latavius Murray, and Eric Tomlinson to give the Broncos a commanding 24-9 lead over the Cardinals. In the fourth quarter, with about 6 minutes left, James Conner would score a 1-yard run. We would go for the 2-point conversion where I really don't think we needed to and failed. Kind of a questionable play where it kind of seemed like DeAndre Hopkins may have been interfered with a little bit, but it just wouldn't matter. The Cardinals never got in the end zone again, gave it up, and just really, really a bungled end of the game there. And a lot of fingers being pointed at Cliff Kingsbury for his calls down the stretch. So we're going to toss it over to VSP Tallman first for his reaction on today's performance in Denver.
Oh man, when's it gonna be over? Watching this team play is like going to the fucking dentist and getting a cavity filled without them numbing your mouth. Like, it's painful, absolutely painful. And why didn't he hand the ball off to James Conner? What was McCoy doing? Going there getting CTE just willingly. Should have handed that ball off. Would have been we wouldn't have to see fucking Trace McSorley come out. He doesn't even belong on an NFL team, I don't think. I don't think he belongs on any professional roster. That guy, we watched some of the worst interceptions ever thrown by a quarterback. Well, maybe not ever, but terrible. He threw the ball right to that one guy, hit him right in the numbers, right to the one Broncos player. And then the second interception, he threw it way short. It wasn't even close. So really painful. I can't wait for this to be over with. That's really it. It needs to end. We need to lose all these games. We need to get a good draft pick. We need a new GM. We need a new head coach. And we need to go just forget any of this happened, go into next season and just try to figure it out. We need to walk away, lick our wounds, whatever. Who cares? It needs to end is all I'm saying. And we're going to sit here again for how many games are left? I don't even know. We're going to do this again. And it's just been painful. Today was very painful. You lose to the worst offense in the NFL. It was just bad. I don't have anything good to say whatsoever. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, we said we were going to probably keep this short and sweet because what can you really say? This franchise is bleeding. When Kyler Murray went out, I think we were all kind of thinking the towel was being thrown in. And we have 3 games left this season, Tallman, and they're not going to be too easy. I see the Buccaneers, the Falcons, and the 49ers, where the Falcons and Buccaneers, you can say, aren't really that formidable of opponents, but you can never count out Tom Brady. He's the GOAT, and the Falcons have found a way to be competitive. On top of that, right, like you're saying, we're working with Colt McCoy, who went out in this game. Maybe he'll be ready for next week, maybe not. So then we have Trace McSorley and David Blau. Mike, is that right? Is that who we just got?
Blau.
David Blau. Blau, Blau, Blau.
David Blau, Blau, Blau. So it's what we have to work with. We know that we're not competing for a playoff spot, but just not what you were hoping for. I mean, we still are supposed to have a top-notch defense, and to get beat up by the Denver Broncos, who have been struggling by their second or third string quarterback themselves. I mean, Mike, is this acceptable under the circumstances, or were you really expecting more from the Cardinals today?
I was expecting more of a fight, and it was going on through, that first half and early in the third quarter when we had that 9-3 lead. But one thing we know about this team is this year, when they get punched in the mouth, they don't know how to get back up. They just bleed and lie on the ground and continue to get stomped and trampled over until there's no more time left on the clock, and you get up looking around and wondering what happened. Once McCoy went down, it was all systems off. We forgot everything that we were doing. They just started running the ball down our throats. I mean, they were most of the game, but we couldn't stop a nosebleed at that point. And then even Rippon is getting some good looks through the air. And I mean, I'm sorry, that guy's not a world beater, and there's still too much talent on this Cardinals team where we should be beating teams like the Denver Broncos. The sad part about this season is that the nail's in the coffin when the only thing you're seeing now is what draft pick are the Cardinals going to get, right? And it looks like it's going to be a top 5 pick, because I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals don't go with Colt McCoy for the rest of the year and we're stuck with Trace McSorley, probably throwing 3 interceptions a game with his horrid ability to see the field. I mean, that last pick to Patrick Surtain where he was trying to force the ball to DeAndre Hopkins, it was such an easy zone play. I have no idea how he didn't see Patrick Surtain the second just sitting there. And it was just insult to injury. I mean, guys, maybe we just don't like Denver. We're 0-6 all time there. We can't get a win there. Broncos offense is the last in the NFL. They've only scored more than 23 points once, and it was last week, and now it's twice because they scored 24 points today. But the Cardinals defense is the worst scoring defense in the league for a reason. And one of the question marks, we do go back to that 2-point conversion. Why don't you just take the field goal, try and get a stop, and then use that, go for 2 if you can score later on in the game? This is just the consistency of the mind-blowing decisions that Cliff Kingsbury and this coaching staff continue to make. I mean, guys, Colt McCoy had an MRI on his head earlier in the fucking week, and we're running option plays with him?
Yeah.
So he could take hits? I know at the end of the day, you get the clears from the medical staff, but why even put your quarterback in that position to start off with is absurd. It's the continued just absolutely mismanagement of the game, not understanding situations. And I can't believe how fast this thing has just absolutely blown up in front of our faces. Steve Keim is out. Kyler Murray is out for injury, but he's out. And Cliff Kingsbury better be out. So it's going to be a whole fresh new reset. And the sad part is we're almost hoping for losses going down the stretch for the last part of this season, so we can have a better opportunity to pick one of these new up-and-coming guys in a pretty good draft class at the top 5. And it's just the last place that I thought we were going to be this year. It's a tough pill to swallow.
Right, and you're not alone, Mike. I mean, I think a lot of people thought the Cardinals would be at least competitive and maybe even contending for that number 1 spot in the NFC West. I mean, look at HBO. They did Hard Knocks with the Cardinals thinking they would be something, and now it's just been so disappointing. Like, we were even saying today, leave a comment below and let us know, are you still watching Hard Knocks? None of us here are. I'm not. VSP Tallman isn't. Michael Benjamin isn't. Ever since the Mexico City episode and the controlled narrative, they didn't talk about Benjamin getting released. None of this news, none of this actual real drama that they could be presenting is being included. And it's all fluff pieces. It's all bullshit. And it's just, this whole organization is a disaster. Like you said, Keim is out. We're going to probably see some news breaking on that. And for the second week in a row, we got to all sit down and watch this game together. And it just looks like, I don't know about you guys, it just looks like Cliff already knows that he's on his way out. He looks disinterested. The play calls seem to suggest that he's not trying to win games, because I don't know what the hell we saw today, but it just wasn't conducive to any type of game-winning football. I mean, James Conner running it up the gut to get stuffed for a 2-yard gain, get 0 yards. It wasn't even gadgety shit anymore. It was just plain pathetic offense and nothing burgers. Trace McSorley trying to force passes into small windows that does not have the ability to make those passes. So I just don't know. I mean, Tallman, I want to give you the floor one last time. And I know there's not much reason for optimism in these last 3 games. Are you looking for them to not necessarily tank, but right now we're looking at a top 5 pick? Are you looking for us to show momentum to go into the next season? Or are you looking for them to just lay down and die these last 3 games?
No, there's no momentum to be had. I mean, looking at this game today, playing the worst offense, we suck. Broncos have a backup quarterback. We have a backup quarterback. They should have just canceled the game, honestly. There's no momentum, like I said, to have. This has just been, for lack of it, it's been a dumpster fire. That's all I have to say. We need it to be over with. So if McCoy's out next week and McSorley starts, I might not watch that fucking game. I'm telling you right now, I might not watch it. I might not be able to without fucking ripping my eyes out. So I think it's all lost. You need to rip it all apart and rebuild it next year. And there's nothing to get this year except just get out of here, get a good pick, and just start over. That's basically it.
I'm really looking forward to the end of the season. And Mike, do you share a kind of similar feeling? Like, are you tuning in next week if it's the Trace McSorley show?
I'm tuning into the bitter end, but that's just because I'm a low-life Cardinals fan who can't.
I'm going to watch it too.
I don't know how to turn it off. I'll end up watching the madness. But yeah, Tallman, I mean, hopefully you do watch it so you can come in and bring some good tidbits for the recap. And I thought you were going to the game, so I don't even know what you're talking about unless you're going to keep your eyes closed the whole time.
I'm probably going to go. Stadium. Yeah, there's a very good possibility I go to the game.
But I mean, last points. We got to get to the end of the season, and hopefully our major key pieces that are still here playing right now stay healthy and just finish out the season. That's it. It's not even finish out the season strong at this point. It's just stay healthy and get to the end of the year. That's really it.
Yeah, avoid any more major injuries, ACL tears, anything that's going to keep people out long term. Just absolutely finish the season healthy. We don't have to finish strong, because I really think this team will be looking a lot different. I mean, more so from the front office perspective, but there are going to be a lot of personnel changes that need to occur also. But like Mike said, we're going to keep watching these games. So you guys, you Valley Sports Plug fans, you don't have to. You can just watch these nice, concise recaps, and we'll tell you the skinny and what's going on and all the painful details of how many more interceptions than touchdowns we threw as a team collectively. But anyway, we thank you so much. This was our Week 15 recap for Valley Sports Plug and the Arizona Cardinals. I'm Chris Patrick for Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman. We will see you next week. Peace.